Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of Reading Layamon's Brut. When last we left off, we met the two brothers, Poreus and Ferius, and they did not get along, to put it mildly. So the younger brother threatened to kill the older brother. The older brother, who is Ferius, then fled to France and eventually came back into Britain, but was defeated by his younger brother, Poreus. Poreus, the younger brother, then killed Ferius, the older brother, and we pick up immediately after that has happened at line 1992. Judon hechte her moeder, the riche was, and onmere. Swede her was sorry, for zorgvol than a slechte, that her son jongere sloeg than a eldere. The dead her was levere, the quick her was leatherer. The quick here was swas with a learth that benemen her him thocht his lief. Poreus lie on boer, there he Mitchell plichty lump. There he lie softe, and he sicher slepte. Kom his mother leathen, mid leurthlichen kraften, mid other 6 weaven, mid 6 longer knieven. Their mother, so the mother of these two, Ferius and Poreus, was called Judon, who was rich or great and infamous or notorious because of what she's about to do. She was very sorrowful because of the sorrowful killing that her younger son slew the elder. The dead son was dearer to her. The living son was more hateful to her. The living was so very hateful to her, so she hates him, that she thought to take from him his life. Poreus lay in his chamber, where a great disaster, situational disaster in this case, I think, to be more specific is more appropriate, a great disaster befell him, where he lay softly and he slept secure. So he doesn't have any fear or any care. He has no idea at all of what's about to happen. His mother came, so cum lethen, as we've seen before, these two verbs go together just to mean that she arrived or she came. She came with hateful, or probably more something like, I think the Middle English Dictionary glosses this as horrible or fearsome. So horrible skills, although Rosamund Allen translates this as instruments, and I think that's probably a good way to take it. Or maybe plans could actually be another way to take craft. Either of those, I think, is fine. With another 6 women with 6 long knives. The uniseli moder, thus hier son mordde. Her carf him, then a swore a twa, a wortha hier a wa. The uniseli moder mid sexe hina to snade, and al to dalde lim from other. Tha was the muchele specie yearned that kineriche, of Judon their queen, the her son a quelde, and of their serche, the isiche was to londe. Tha was dead Ferius, alswa was Poreus, benumen was their moder, bonschippe und lerde. Tha nes der nocht of den kunne, the michte dis kinelon welden, webmon the wiefmon, but the serchvolle Judon. The wretched mother, although I do like Rosamund Allen's translation of this, she takes this as accursed, so we might go with accursed here, because I think that is, well, that's certainly much more forceful. The accursed mother thus murdered her son. She carved him, so she cut the neck in two to him, literally, so she's sliced his neck, or his throat. And then we have, this is the subjunctive, so may woe come about to her, or upon her. The accursed mother, with a knife, cut him apart, and completely broke apart one limb from the other. Then was the great speech, so there was great speech throughout the kingdom about Judon the queen, who killed her son, and about the sorrow that had come to the land. When Phereus was dead, Poreus was as well. Likewise, honour among the people was taken from the mother. Then there was not at all from the family, from the royal family, and we would understand anyone who might rule or could rule this kingdom, neither man nor woman, except the sorrowful Judon. Gumen her mi gaderiden, and worpen her to se grunde, da araste her unfriede overal me brak den agrith, sterke weren de remes, mit stronge raflake, Elchman ravide other, vechit weren his brother, rake was on londe, wa was dan unstronge, her was hunger and hete, her was alre harmel en meest, her was muchel monqualm, that lut her quick beleefden. Voor her weren riche, they haveden verden muchele, their nedden al the othera, and herm nether satten, and speken hem together, and speleden the heche, that her woelden al this land delen hem betwenen. Thus her hit idemden, and thereafter swaduren. In Scotland was King Stater, I Logres was King Piner. Men gathered themselves, so they gathered together, and cast her, Judon, into the bottom of the sea. So they've drowned her as punishment for her crime of murdering the king. Then there arose here unpeace, so discord, chaos, I think is more appropriate given what happens. Chaos, overall or completely, people broke the peace. The outcries were fierce or violent, with strong raiding, and each man raided the other, even though it were his brother. Disaster or destruction was on the land. Woe was the weak. Here was hunger and heat, devastation, terrible conditions. Here was the greatest of all harms. Here was great slaughter. We saw this word last time meaning plague specifically, but I think here it's more generically referring to the disaster that's befallen the land with all the raiding and pillaging that's going on and the slaughter of the people. So there was this great slaughter, such that few remained alive here. Here were 4 rich or powerful people who had great armies. They subjected or oppressed all the others and set them, all the others, low. And the great people spoke together amongst themselves and spoke. They said that they would divide all this land between them. Thus they deemed it, judged it, concluded, and thereafter they did so. In Scotland was King Stater, in Logres King Piner, or Piner, something like that. Cloten hafde Cornwall, Reduak have de Northwales, ach Cloten have de mest richt, te Aachen das Riche, ach the othere weren rachere, and Ekehil weren richere, of gold and of Garisum and of gold Londe. Cloten her o Shuneden, and his Ferden for Huide. Cloten have de Cornwall, that he held well on a Grithe. Cloten have de Enesun, The cell was on earthe. He was fire, he was muchel. To vechten, he was mare. Knicht, he was kene. And he was geva kusti. Money thues gode, he havede on his mode. Cloten had Cornwall, Redwack had North Wales, but Cloten had the most right to own or to possess or rule this kingdom. But the others were fiercer, and they were also richer of gold, so richer with respect to gold and to treasure and good land. They shunned Cloten and scorned or rejected his enmity or his hostility, his foereden. Cloten had Cornwall. He held that well in peace. Cloten had one son, who was good on the earth. He was fair and he was great. He was great to the fight, so great at fighting. He was a bold or a courageous knight. He was gift generous, generous of gifts. He had in his mind many good virtues. His nome was I hote thus, Donwallo Molinus. This was the fireste mon, the ever acht this nekinedom. Tha he michte beren wepnen, and his horse wella wilden, he liefde jern des lurden, swulch hit on leon were. He sloch pinner than a king, his folk he alle kwalde. Tha him withstoden, he felde hem to his foten, and all logres that land, he agnede to his achere hond. Suthen he turnde his fare, and fared vertricht to Wales. There he found Rudak king, the rech was to vechte. To geines him he funde there, Scotlandes king, Stater. His name, so the name of this son of Cloten, was called thus, Donwallo Molinus. This is Geoffrey of Monmouth's Donwallo Molmutius, which is Geoffrey's attempt to render in Latin the Welsh name, which I believe is pronounced something like Dyfnwal Moelmud. And he is possibly a historical figure. However, his life and reign probably bears little resemblance to the one that exists in the chronicle tradition that we find represented here. This was the fairest man who ever possessed this kingdom before. When he could bear weapons and control his horse well, he went throughout this land, throughout the people, throughout the land, as though it were a lion, referring to Dunwallow himself, so as though he were a lion. He slew Pinner, the king, so he's the king of Logres, the area that, remember, corresponds more or less with England. His people he all killed, that is, the people of Pinner. When they, we'd understand the subject, they stood against him, he felled them to his feet. And all the land of Logres he possessed, so he took possession of in his own hand. Afterwards he turned his army, and he went straight away or directly to Wales. There he found King Rudak, who was fierce in the fight. He found there Scotland's king, Stater, against him. So he's also there with King Rudak, ready to fight against Donwallow. Her speken there to Sachte, to Sibbe and to Somer, eithes her sworen, swiken that her nulden. Thus her marketen her faire, again ferde Dunwale, and his mochele ferde, to Cornwale his erde. Tha I herde stater, that Dunwale was swithe fair. Mid mochele Scot ferde he skrath to this land, Rudoak mid his Welschen, that Wal was the more. Into this land her komen, this folk, her sluwe, wiede her ernde, tuoners her forbanden, muchel dal her I westen, mid harmen than mesten. So these three kings, they spoke there for peace and for unity. They swore oaths that they would not betray. So one another is understood, or betray the agreement. Thus they made or conducted their proceedings or their business. Dunwallow went back, and his great army, to Cornwall, his land. When Stator heard that Dunwallow was very far away, he came to this land with a great Scot army. Rudoak, with his Welshmen, did presumably the same thing. The slaughter was the greater. They came into this land. They slew here this people. They ran widely, so they ranged far and wide. They burned down, completely destroyed towns. They laid waste to a great part, with great harms. That word kom to Dunwalla, there he was I Cornwalla, wet Ruach king dud here, and the king stat here. Thus I de Dunwalla, that was the Duchendamon, no her beth forsworne, mid her swikadome, be Apollinus are, ne I leve each hem never mare, no way shall remen and risen together, under dissen luften letten richt schuften. The word came to Dunwallow, where he was in Cornwall, what King Ruach did here, and the king, Stator. Then Dunwallow said, Dunwallow, who was a courageous or a bold man, now they are forsworn with their treachery. By the grace of Apollo, or Apollin, we've talked about him before, I do not believe them evermore. I never more trust them. Probably a wise decision. Now we shall advance, we shall attack, and attack together, which reisen together is a bit of a standard phrase, meaning simply to engage in battle. So, and we'll engage in battle. Under this heaven, let right decide. So in other words, justice will prevail. Sendeth mina sonden, yearned alle mina londe, and biddeth elchna godna mon, the grief wulle halden, and alle they may of haldeth, kommen sone, and sendeth liedende men after other lurden, to follien may in mina londe, for silver and for gold, and each wulle mina richte faren to stalfechte, to genne then a swerd brotheren, the byene birth forsworene, for well often may birth a wild, the stondeth othen woge, ne my never mon sware, monship longer age achen. There Dunwalla have de said, al his folk loveder than a red. So Dunwallow continues his speech, send my messengers throughout all my land, and bid each good man who wishes to hold, keep, maintain peace, and all who hold from me, so hold lands from me, are my feudal subjects, to come before soon, to come immediately, and send travelling men after other people to follow me in my land for silver and for gold. So go outside of Britain and find anyone else who's willing to come and help out in return for payment. And I will go to Stalfecht to make a stand, to hold my ground for my rights, for what is mine, against the sworn brothers who are both forsworn. For well often, or very often, he is conquered who stands or endures, carries on, basically continues going in the wrong. Nor can any person who breaks an oath, any perjurer, maintain, keep, or own his honour for long. End of direct speech. All his people loved the counsel which Dunwallow had said. He somnade ferd, swulchnes never on erde. Swothen was the teamer, the Brutus kom her liethen. He fuldet his ferde, and for a muchle koste, tokennes dan twam kingen, there he hem funde on walde. He hilden together, and hardeliche fuchten, fölen the fire, followed the nebbes, wherein all the felders I fired mit blode. There was money hard gome, mit sword to hewen. Dun wali than fechte was fendliche kene. That fecht was swither strong, and swither stark, and swither long. He gathered his army, such was never before in the land. So there's never been another army like this one. Since the time was that the Britons came here, Cumleithen again here, arrived here. He filled his army, so he's decked it out with everything it needs, and for a great situation, a great course of action. It's worth noting that this is not our word cost, meaning something like price. That does exist in Middle English, but it comes from Old French. Layamon is using the Old English word cost, which means condition or situation, something along those lines. So he's prepared his army for a great situation, a great state of affairs, I think, is how the modern translators like to take it, something along those lines, against the two kings, where he found them in the field. They held together and fought fiercely. The doomed fell. Faces became white. The fields were completely discoloured with blood. There was many a strong man hacked apart with a sword. Dunwallow was extremely bold in the fight. The fight was very strong and very fierce and very long. It lasted for a long time. And in the middle of that battle, at that cliffhanger, is actually where we're going to leave it today. Come back next week, or whenever the next episode is posted, to find out what happens next. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or corrections, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and you can do that either by way of the comment section below or the Facebook page, which you will find linked in the video description. All the best, and I'll see you next time.